up where we left off, we're going to now take the lights that we have plotted and we are going to apply a label legend to these lights. So what we need to do is the label legend is something that tells us the channel number, the circuit number, the unit number, a number of different pieces of information that we then will populate around each fixture so that the plot gives more information than just placement of a light. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the scenery first, just because I think it will be cleaner to look at as we discuss what a label legend is. So now I have these lights here and the scenery is gone. So I'm going to go up to Spotlight, Lighting, and I'm going to go to Label Legend Manager. And the Label Legend Manager, of course, popped up on my other screen. I'm going to pull it over. Here, we have no legends, so nothing that tells information where to populate around our light. So we're going to add a legend. Another window will pop up. And here it's going to ask us what we want to include in our legend. So we're going to say use in 2D. We're not going to check the use in 3D column. We don't need to do that at the moment. So one of the things we need to know is we'll look down through here and see what would we like to include. A lot of times people include the purpose. Certainly should always include the unit number and the channel number. Now, this next one you see universe/address, you see universe, you see DMX address, and you see absolute address. You can deal with these in a few different ways. We will talk about that in a lighting class, but for right now, I'm going to just click DMX address. I'm going to scroll through here and I'm going to say, well, we should probably have the color on there. These are not things that you always have in your label legend, but often people will. I choose to often have the label legend as concise as possible because all of this information also would be exported into Lightright, which is just a glorified Excel program for lighting that does a lot of different functions that are helpful specifically in the theater. So I prefer to usually carry a packet of paperwork around rather than a plot, but every head electrician is different. And here at ASU, we basically just need purpose, channel, unit number, the address, or dimmer, depending on how you want to label that. But actually, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of address and just use the dimmer. That's more conventional. That's for usually your conventional lights. When you get into addresses, that is for fixtures that are moving light fixtures and things that take much more data than just turning a dimmer on and off. But I'm going to take that away and I'm actually going to use dimmer. So we have unit number, channel, dimmer, and the color. And that's all I'm going to populate around this fixture right here. So normally I would go in and I would use the simplest of these fixtures, but it doesn't really matter. But I would usually use a medium flood, and I don't have a medium flood in here right now, but I'm going to go ahead and grab one. And use it as the basis of my label legend. And now, over here in this column, right reading. This means no matter how we plate the drawing and how we turn it in a viewport or whatever, it's always going to orient itself with the title block. So if we want right reading, it's always going to be, no matter how the fixture is placed, that when we see it on the screen, the number is going to read vertically in the natural orientation of our screen. So I'm going to say the purpose, I don't want to be right reading because it's probably going to go on the front edge of the beam or the fixture. But things that I do want to be right reading is the unit number. That number, no matter how it rotates within the circle or fixture that it will live in, is probably always going to be okay to rotate no matter what. The purpose could be a longer purpose, like stage, right, wall, wash. And if that is placed along the front edge of the unit, no matter how the unit turns, you don't want that text to turn because it's going to run into the unit. I will show you what I mean in a moment. The channel number should probably be right reading. No matter how the drawing turns, we just don't want to have to twist our necks to read it. And the same thing with the dimmer and the color, we should probably not do right reading. And that's another reason that I would tell you why momentarily. Okay, so we have populated the things that we want to use in the drawing and that we want them to be right reading, but we also need containers. So this channel right here, your channel number, usually if you click on this, it'll just start changing, is usually a circle. Your unit number needs no container because it's going to go within the fixture. The dimmer, here we have a circle, a rectangle, a hexagon, a triangle, and back to none. You can add other container types, but we're going to say that the dimmer is going to go in a hexagon. A dimmer usually goes in the hexagon, and then an address would go in a rectangle. But we're going to use the hexagon for the dimmer right here, and then the color does not need a container. So now that we have specified what we want to use, which things those are, which are right reading, and what containers things have, we're going to click OK. Oh, I forgot to name this label legend. Okay, so this legend is going to be source for, let's just say par. And it will be used with all source 4 pars until we have a problem, but it will be used with all source 4 pars. I'm going to click OK. And now I have this label legend here, but it's not active, it's not doing anything. But I also need to then edit the layout. So now I've created it. I added a fixture. If I wanted to go back in and edit those fields, I could click here and edit them. But I'm going to edit 2D layout. And it's going to bring me to this screen right here. All right? And I have purpose. And I'm going to take this, and you want this to align with edges of the fixture. So when you click on purpose here, you see this point right here. I'm going to grab it by that point right there on the edge, and I'm going to put the purpose over here on the front of the unit right there. Okay? And then I want to grab the unit number by its center because it's going to drop the information from center. All this stuff should be centered up. And I'm going to drop it right here at the insertion point or the center of the unit, which is not necessarily quite center of the unit, but it works and it references the point. You already see here that the channel and dimmer are in their containers, or so they should be. It doesn't quite look like that because the words don't fit. But one thing I want to do is grab this information. Actually, sorry, I'm going to grab this information because I want the dimmer to be closest to the unit. So once I grab those two things together, I'm going to grab it by the edge of that hexagon. And I want that hexagon to touch the unit. Now that touches. And now I want to grab the channel number right by the top of that circle because that's going to touch the hexagon. And I want to come over here, center the hexagon, and touch. Now that information is there. Now the color I want to show up alongside the unit. So what I want to do is this color, I'm going to go ahead and turn the text. And I'm going to hit Control L. And it's going to turn the color. And I'm going to turn it again. And Vectorworks is not going to oh, there it goes. It rotates all the way around. So now I'm going to grab this by the edge of the text box, and then I want to put the color over here on the side of the unit. Now, this is going to take some nudging around possibly because the side of the unit is not linear and I have to center it up sort of on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that color like right in there, and I'm going to hold down my shift key and arrow down, and it's going to move that color information down a little bit. And I'm going to guess that that's probably a good place for it. It might not be, but we're going to come back and edit this when we see some other stuff. So now we have populated our things around our label legend, and we're going to exit this symbol because it's a symbol we're applying the label legend to. And now I'm going to go in here and I am going to grab each of these fixtures. And I am going to, I could give them a label legend in one of two ways. I could either come over here to my object info palette and scroll down to where it says use legend, and I could drop this menu down and select source 4 par here, or I could go up here with those units selected, go to spotlight, lighting, and then assign legend to lighting devices. So if I click that, it's going to do the same thing as if I look over here. I'm going to grab the source 4 par, and I'm going to click OK. Now you see that that label legend is populated, but the object info panel has no information on any of those lights. So everything as blanks has populated there. So the next thing we're going to do is give these lights some information. So we don't really need to worry about specific information in this class and talking about what kind of information we would put in a purpose. But let's just say here, I'm going to go ahead and say that each of these lights is a down light that is cool, meaning a cool color. A lot of times, basic lighting stuff, you'll have a warm and a cool for every focus point, or nearly every focus point, unless you have LEDs, and then LEDs can do multiple colors. However, thinking about just conventional fixtures, I've selected all of these, and now I want to give them some information. So with all of them selected, I come over here to Object Info, and I want to be careful because anything I change in here will change for every single fixture. But I'm going to go to Purpose, and I'm going to put down, DN for down. Sometimes you abbreviate these things, whatever makes sense for you. And some people might put CL for cool, but I'm going to go ahead and put the word cool, COOL. And I'm going to hit enter, and that should populate there. You see the purpose is on the front of every unit. Okay, that's probably going to cause a problem in a moment, but we will see what happens. So now we need unit numbers. I could click on each unit and then come over and put the unit number in here and hit enter, and it would populate there. However, for right now, I'm going to pretend like these are the only lights on these electrics, even though most likely they would not be. But I'm going to go to Spotlight, Spotlight Numbering, and then I'm going to have the Spotlight Numbering screen pop up, and it's going to ask me the available fields for whatever I'm working on. But the object is not the focus point. The object needs to be the lighting device. So now I want to put what fields I want to control when I'm numbering things. So for this, I want to use unit number. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to find the unit number, and I'm going to move it over to the field I want to be in use right now. And then I want to start at unit number 1. And I want to automatically use an increment of 1 as I click along. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and keeps adding to the next unit number. And then I don't really need to worry about the rest of this. And I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to go down. Stage left to stage right is how we number units. So I click on this one, and then it says my next unit is unit number 2, because you see it there in that little box. So I'm going to click for 2, and then 3, and 4, and 5. And then I'm going to double click somewhere in a blank area to get myself out of this numbering scheme, because if I tried to come up here and start numbering, it's going to go to the number 6, and I don't want that. So I'm going to double click, and now there we go. The unit numbers are there. Now I want to start unit numbers new, so I'm going to go up here to Spotlight, Spotlight Numbering. Comes back to this screen. I still have control of the unit number, and I want the starting number to go back to the number 1, so I enter 1, I click OK, and now I'm back to doing the same thing again. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Double click somewhere else, and now you have those unit numbers there. Now we need channels. What would our downlight channeling scheme be? Well, I usually or always number my units from stage left to stage right, because that is common practice and standard. But what I want to do is number the channels so that they look like the channel scheme makes sense to me from where I sit at the tech table. That does make sometimes the day of focus a little difficult as you flip things around in your head while you're standing on stage focusing lights. But we can talk about how to get around that and methods to deal with that when we're in a lighting 1 or a lighting 2 class, really, when we talk about focusing. So what do I want to do? I want to give these channel numbers. Well, I want to associate the channel number with the focus point. So I would usually start my front lights with channel 1 and then break things into a scheme. So my first bank of channels are the front lights, then my second bank of channels are the down lights, and so on and so forth. These are things that are just preference, and you can do them however you want. There's really not any standard that dictates how you must channel number your plot. It's all about you doing what's easiest for you as a designer. So I'm going to go to Spotlight. I'm going to go back to Spotlight Numbering. And this time I'm going to get rid of that field and send it back over here. But I want to use the channel number. I want to affect the channel. That's the field in use. And I'm going to start with 1, increase by 1. Great. I click OK. And now I want to make these. So this one is for area 1, area 2, area 3, area 4, area 5. And then 6 through 10 are lit by these 5 units. So I'm going to double click out here because I want to show you one other thing. Spotlight Numbering, channel. I'm going to say this starts the downlights with channel, let's say 41. There's the starting channel. Click OK. 41 goes to focus point 1, 42 to focus point 2, and we're going to continue on with that same scheme. And once I'm done, I'm going to double click somewhere blank, and you see 41 through 45 and 46 through 50. Now I need to put a dimmer number in there. This is something that I find easiest when you connect a Vectorworks file to a Lightright file and you enter the dimmer numbers in Lightright and let those speak to your Vectorworks file and pull that information into your Vectorworks file, because often your circuit numbers don't run in order and they are all over the place, and you can't really use the Spotlight numbering function to execute that in a meaningful way, or a way that actually works with a workflow that helps you use less time or be more efficient. However, for the sake of this, I'm just going to assign random numbers. So let's say on this electric, the dimmer number, let's say this is 37. This one is, let's say, 39. Here we have, this one could be 43. And this could be, say, 45. So on and so forth. I'm just putting bogus numbers in here of what circuits or dimmers could be on that electric. All right, so we could jump up here and suddenly the dimmers be 121 and dimmer 124 and dimmer number 127 and hit enter. And then I could have another mult coming over here and suddenly this is 215 and this one is 218. One thing you'll notice is that this number doesn't quite fit in that hexagon. We'll deal with that momentarily. All right, now we need color. If these are all down cools, they're probably all going to be the same color. So I'm going to grab each of these. Now that I have them, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to give them a color, and I'm going to say that all of their color might be Roscoe 83. And I'm going to hit OK. And now you see that that color information pops up along the unit. However, this seems like a lot to look at. All of these things are the same size and a little difficult to digest. And you can imagine once there are more lights on the plot, this would become even more difficult to look at. So what do? We clean it up. Also, we probably don't want all the text to be red, and that's left over from whatever class we're in, and it picked up that color. So we're going to change that. We're going to go back to Spotlight, Lighting, Label Legend Manager. It popped up on my other screen again. I'm going to click on this legend, and I'm going to edit the 2D layout. So in here now, I'm just going to grab these things. Oh, there's the color. And I'm going to make sure that their text color is black. So it's not going to be a class style. It's going to be separate. I'm going to make the text black. And now all that stuff is black. So if a number does not fit inside the container like we saw, you could either make the text smaller or the container bigger. I'm not going to make the text smaller on the dimmer. I am used to working with union crews, and often they are older gentlemen who don't want to wear glasses when they work, and if you start to reduce the text sizes of certain things, you make people cranky. So instead of reducing these two things, which are normally what people are going to be looking for the most on a plot outside of the unit placement, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab purpose and I'm going to grab color. And I'm going to see their font is size 12, but I'm going to go ahead and drop that down to 8. Now when I do that, there's a gap that appears here. So I want to zoom in and I want to grab that and pull it back down so it touches the unit, and then over here I can pull this over till it kind of lines up, no matter how much. Oh, I'm not even on the corner. Just 1 second. There we go. And it kind of lines up. Boink. All right. So now those two pieces of information are a little smaller. So I'm going to exit the symbol, and you see it's updated the symbol. And look, it's already easier to look at because we have this information that is now not overlapping. However, this number still doesn't fit. What do? So we want to come over to our resource manager, and we're going to look, and in here, once you have a label legend, a folder should populate called containers. And we're going to go to the hexagon, and we're going to right click and we're going to edit the 2D component, and then it's going to take us to a symbol so that we can edit it. So what I want to do is I want to make this a little larger. So I'm going to grab it here, and we see that here it's a 6-inch, basically it's 6 by 6. We're going to increase on that angle until we get to, let's say 7, but because I have the cursor held down, I'm going to hit the tab key twice, and over here where this measurement was 6 inches, I'm going to make it 7 inches and hit enter, and now it's going to contain me to that measurement or restrict me, and I'm going to click on that, and now this makes this larger. However, the insertion point is center, so we need to grab the center and pull it back to center of this drawing so that it functions appropriately. We exit the symbol, and now we see that the container still does not accommodate the whole number, and that is because that container has not actually updated in our drawing. So what we're going to do is go to Spotlight, and let's see. Sorry, there used to be a function called Refresh Instruments, and I don't see it now. Let's see if we can grab all of these. Well, it's going to make me grab the focus points too. Let's grab these lights. And see if there's a refresh over here. There we go. Refresh labels. I'm going to hit refresh labels. And now you're going to see that the number fits in the container, but the container overlaps the fixture. That's okay for right now. We're going to fix it. You can also see that if we got into triple digit channel numbers, they aren't going to fit either. So we need to go back and do the same edit to our circle containers. I'm going to edit that 2D component. I'm going to come here and grab this, and you see its height and width is 6 inches. I'm going to tab, and I'm going to make this 7 inches. And that makes it an oval, so I need to go over here and make that 7 inches as well. And then I want to drag this back on center, exit symbol, and now I want to refresh those labels on those lights again. Refresh those labels. And now we see the circle is bigger. It could probably accommodate a third number. It might not. You might have to go in and edit the circle again or make the text slightly smaller. But that is depending on your crew and what they're expecting. So now this all overlaps. It's not stacked the way I originally told you it should be. So I need to go back to Spotlight and then Lighting, Label Legend Manager. I want to then grab this legend and edit the 2D layout. And you see here, these things are overlapping now in the legend. So I'm going to grab them together, and then by this edge here, I'm going to pull it down, and then I'm going to grab just the channel stuff and pull it down so that it meets right to the edge of that dimmer information. And now that's all there. And when I exit this symbol, now you see everything lines up. You can control label legend information by class. And in those cases, sometimes you will see that the circle, the container for your channel number, some people will put that as the first container that touches the light, because sometimes you want to turn whoops, sorry, I grabbed that unit and moved it. Sometimes you want to turn the dimmer or address information off and just have the channel number. And in that case, you would put the channel number down here touching the fixture first, and then the other information. And when we talk about fixture or instrument legends, then we will dictate that in the drawing off to the side of the drawing to illustrate what all this information means. All right, so that is basically how you create a label legend. You can orient the legend however you would like. You can manipulate it in that label legend manager and edit the individual legend. However, Vectorworks added some functionality that is nice that we used to have to create many legends for any kind of situation in light. So if you had a light in a unique situation and its spatial relationship with another light, you might have to create a very specific legend for that light. However, if you just need to move a piece of information, if you had some space over here for the color, then you might want to drop that color over here but keep everything else the same, which is not a big deal. So I would grab this light, and you see in the object info panel, I'm going to scroll down and use legend. It's using the source 4 par, but I can also rotate and flip that legend. So I want to do flip the legend left and right. So when I click on that, it's only going to switch information that on its axis, because the purpose, the dimmer, and the channel are all centered. If they flip and they're right reading, it stays. This color information flipped on the axis of the light to the other side. I could, if I was in another situation, flip the legend front to back. And this does happen on occasion, and it's okay. There will be enough information on the plot once we put kind of a legend for this in the title block that people would understand it, and it's common practice. I'm going to revert those things back, and that is how you create basic label legends.